Welcome to Tim's Workshop. Hey, I want to make a video showing how to rebuild a Mercury 60 horse three-cylinder 2-stroke engine, and I started this project last year in the fall, and I removed the tilt trim unit off the boat, which the video will show that, and I took it up and had it the hydraulic shop up in Everett helped me out on some of it, and then I got my O-rings from them and put it back together, and the last couple days I put it back on the boat. So you'll see the process I went through on making the video and rebuilding the tilt trim and removal and installation too. So if you like the video, please subscribe and hit the alert bell next to it for notifications on my next videos coming out. All right, thanks. Okay, this tilt trim removal process. I have my my hoist up here. Put the ring in the top of the flywheel, strapped it around here, tied it off, got some pressure on it, took out the 2 bolts here, took this nut off here. You have to hold the other side with like a crescent wrench because the whole thing will turn. And once you get these off, this arm, you can slide it back and forth in order to, because the tilt trim is wedged in between there. And like I was lucky enough to get these 3 bolts off. This is a 1996, so it's pretty old, but actually in fairly good shape other than the seals are shot that I can see so far. I don't see any corrosion that's gone through the cylinder. It is getting corroded, but not too bad. The this anode is pretty well wasted, you know, so I got a new one, but obviously these bolts are probably going to break off, and the other side they did snap off, so I drilled them halfway through so I could leave the thread still good in this, and then on a workbench I can drill into it and use it easy out and heat it up if I have to get these remaining 3 bolts out, hopefully, and not destroy the threads on it. If not, there is room for a nut over here, and on the other side, you know, and down at the bottom there's no place to put a nut on the bottom, so we'll figure that out once I get it all apart. I couldn't get this pin out. It was froze up solid. I didn't have enough swing, so maybe on the workbench I might be able to get it apart, but if it's too tough, if I can get to everything and clean it up, I'm not going to really worry about it. Just put it all back together. So yeah, I got it out. Took some effort to do it, but there we go. So yeah, I'm going to replace the seals in that. The electric pump actually works good. I just cleaned it up and put a new O-ring on it. And as far as the motor, and what else? I left this side completely left in. So now to unstrap this, I got to put this back on with the 2 bolts. I knocked this halfway out, so I'll get it knocked back in, put the nuts back on, put this bolt back in there. The bolt, the nut for this one here on the other side, actually if I have this in there, I won't have to worry about this for now. I can do it later, because I'm going to have to take it, depending on how tight a fit this is, I might have to take it apart again to get the tilt trim back in there, and then tighten it all down after that. All right. Okay, so this is tilt trim unit. Okay, and these holes here are the through holes that you put a nut washer on. And then this one here, the threads are still good on it. I was able to get it out. This side over here is the side I had trouble with, and all three broke off. And also the pin that goes all the way through that holds the cylinder on, I tried to get that out. It is really froze in there. So I decided just to, get the whole thing out of there and leave this together and just work on replacing the O-rings in the cylinder itself, which I saw in another video. So that's what we're doing with that. And then the reason I didn't have this tool, this is called a spanner wrench, right? And this is what you get the top cap off with. And also you use it for getting the piston rod, the rod piston on the bottom of this. You get that broke loose too with this. Okay, so I didn't have it at the time, so I took it up to Everett hydraulic shop, and they helped me out. They had a spanner wrench, and they were able to get it broke loose for me. And the reason I went there, rather than getting this spot, I got it now, but before I had it, I went there because I found out that getting the O-ring kit for this to replace the old O-rings, they don't make them anymore, or they don't have them anymore. So I looked up the Everett hydraulic shop and went up there, and they not only helped me take it apart, but I went back up there with the old O-rings, and they found the replacement O-rings for me out of their stock, and they didn't charge me for that or for nothing. They said, here you go. So that was a kudos to the Everett hydraulic shop for helping me out. So so that worked really good. And then when they pulled it apart, this is the cap, okay? And on this sheet here, Mercury Marine, I found this this schematic here that shows how it all goes together. So this is the piston, this is the cap, and this is the rod piston. Okay, actually goes like that. And excuse me, and this is the memory piston. Okay, so this is the last part of it that's inside the cylinder. So when they got this apart for me, the top cap, and they put the this into a vise, they were able to get this part broke loose as well for me. And this tool actually works for that as well. This is adjustable, so you can, and it has quarter pins. Okay, and I got this at the Granger up in Everett too, for actually $20 less than you can buy online. So that worked out really well. All this right here, this is the check valves, okay? So what I'm going to do to put this thing all back together is first I'm going to put the motor back on. This is the O-ring that goes down at the bottom here, okay? And use your power trim fluid to put on your O-rings when you put your O-rings back together. Put that on, and then I lost a drive gear, right? So I made my own drive gear, and it was kind of a fun little project to make. You have to measure it just exactly right. Plus, it's kind of bent, so I was going, it'll work. Well, today I came out here and I found the original drive gear laying on the ground in here in my little workshop. I cleaned it up with a broom because it looked pretty dirty in here, and sure enough, hey, there it is. So I lucked out, because you drop that out in the grass out in the yard, good luck. It's like a needle in the haystack trying to find it. Anyway, this drive gear just got to go back on. Okay, so that's got to be there. Put your O-ring on the motor. Put your motor back on here. This is the bolts for putting it in. Get that cinched down, and then the next step is putting your rod together. Okay, so the first part of step on that is you got your what they call a wiper. The wiper goes up and down the shaft and keeps the dirt out of your O-ring. Okay, so it goes like this. It goes kind of upside down. It shows you here on the on your cheat sheet, right? And you put that in there. It's got a groove. You get it sandwiched in there. Use some fluid on it to make it a little easier to get in there. And then the O-ring, the fat O-ring, it goes in this notch here. Okay, so get that all together, and then slide that up the shaft, and it's good to go. Oh, you got to put this O-ring on too. The thinner of the three large ones, that goes on there. So once that's on, get it put on your rod. I wouldn't go all the way up. I want to go about halfway. Okay. Then the next step is your rod piston. Okay. And all these check valves and plate and all that doesn't go on yet. That'll be after you get it on here, threaded on. Use Loctite on the threads. Okay. And it goes on like this with all this where you're going to put the check valve balls and all the seats and all that. You put that facing down. Right? Put this in a vise, right? And then put this on, and then use your spanner wrench, tighten it, and then when it's still in the vise, go ahead and start putting your ball seats in these 5 holes. Drop them in there. Okay. Make sure it's all clean before you do. Once the ball seats are in, then your push rods, this part of it goes against the balls. Okay. And then your spring goes over the top of all of it. And once you got all 5 sets of these in there, then put your plate on. Okay. And when you put the plate on, these are the screws. They're star screws. Use Loctite on those too. They're 35 inch-pounds. You put those on there. Okay. So once that's all together, everything's on there. Then your memory piston. Also make sure your fat O-rings are installed. Oh, on this one here, this one thin O-ring, before you go ahead and thread that on there, this and tighten it, make sure you get this in there first, because it'll be a lot easier to get it on, and later you won't be able to get it on. So that goes in that small groove, the small O-ring. So you have inner O-rings and outer O-rings. Okay, and the memory piston and your rod piston both take these fat O-rings. Okay. Then take your memory O-ring, your memory piston with the O-ring in it, your tilt trim. It's cold in here, so I'm shaking a little bit. Get this, once you have your motor in there and all that, fill your cylinder 3 inches from the top, which it says in the maintenance manual, and then put your memory piston in with the O-ring. Get it in there and push it down to the level of the fluid. Okay, not all the way down, just down to where your fluid mark is. If you're having trouble pushing it down, make sure you release your pressure release right here. It's a valve. That's how you release it for lifting your motor up and down when you need to. There's a picture of it right here. That's what it looks like. So when you back this off, you got 3 sets of O-rings on this valve that's in there. It makes it so the fluid will pass through. Okay. and that's called the release. So that'll make it easier to get the memory piston down and to get the other rod in. You don't want these two hitting each other, right? So you have this 3 inches down, you have this come down, and then just start it in there, right? And then you have this on there, and then you start threading this in there with the rod. Once it's all together, then you use this to tighten it, and doesn't say anything about Loctite on this. So you get that all tightened up, and then you're ready to start running it, putting fluid in here. This is where you put your fluid in. The motor's on there, and you already have fluid in here, but you want to add fluid here until it just starts to come out, and then put the cap back on. And then once you start running it up and down, you can use a battery with jumper cables, and this is positive. So the positive side, and then use this negative without the tape on it. That'll run the rod up. If you switch polarity on it, it'll actually bring it back down. So you can do this test or get it, running up and down with just a battery, so you know it's all together good and you're ready to go. Okay. The anode, same thing. The bolts broke off that. So what I did is I center drilled what was left. I tried using vice grips on what was sticking out, and that didn't work. So anyway, I was able to center drill them to the point where the threads just came out, and then I was able to get the bolts on in the new anode. The other one was really wasted. It had been changed probably since it was originally bought in '96. So there's Loctite, spanner wrench, power trim fluid, all the O-rings, new parts. This was the new wiper, but the guy told me, he said, I think that's too small. Anyways, he said just use the old one. So I'm gonna use the old wiper on it. Okay, don't need this, but everything else is good to go. All right. Okay, it's that time of year. It's almost spring around here, and I rebuilt the power trim for the Merc, and going to be putting it back on. So finishing up this video that I started last fall. Take the cover off. Gonna have to put this up in the up position. There's a lock on this thing on the other side. Just like that. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to get my my hoist out, take the tension off this, so I can take the bolt nut back off and pull this this arm back off to get the trim unit in between the spot it's supposed to go, sandwich it back together, make sure the bolts are started, and then put the nut back on, go put the other bolt through. I gotta drive it in from this direction in with some sealant, and then put the nut back on here for the arm, and then put the trim motor wiring back together, and last but least get the steering arm back in there and hook up the connections. All right, so we got the hoist all hooked up. Got it around here. Got it around here. So it's ready to put some tension on it. Not much, just enough to get the load off. Okay, that's good enough. Now I'm going to take the this bolt out, and then when I do, I can see how much tension I got it on between the boat and the arm. When I know that it's just sitting there in neutral position, then I can go ahead and pull this arm back, get it off. Okay, so got the arm off. Okay, the old sealant or whatever they put in between here. I'm going to scrape this off, clean it up, put a couple tabs more of anti-corrosive stuff on there, and put some around that area that's open there. They use some kind of sealant, it looks like, that gets hard, whatever it is. So I'm going to put something on there that will keep it from corroding any more than it already is. This doesn't look too bad. It's just I got to get this stuff off of here and clean up the side where the power trim's going to go. Don't paint it, you know, just get it down to the metal. That way it has a good bond to it. Yeah. So all the load is off the engine. So it's not on just the other arm. That wouldn't be good to do that. So that's why the hoist comes in handy. The engine itself only weighs about 230 pounds, but it's bigger than I want to lift, that's for sure. Okay, so I got the tilt trim unit in with just a couple bolts sandwiched it in there. Put this back up there. Put the top bolt in. I put seal, just some flex shot in behind where the bolt goes, so it's sandwiched in there. Same thing on the bottom bolt. I still have to go in and put the nut on the inside, but the seal ought to hold it for me so I can at least get it maybe all the way. If not, I'll have to put a wrench on the outside tomorrow. Today I'm kind of running out of time. I'm going to cover everything over. I'm done with the hoist. So because I have the arm on, I can still put the nut on and torque the nut up. But as long as I have this bolt in and those couple bolts in that, sandwiched it together so it's in the right spot. I got one over here, but I got 3 of them on the other side, so it should stay right where it's supposed to be. I gotta put the wiring up through the hole here, and then it comes in through here and over to the tilt trim connections on the engine. But before I do that, there's an attachment here, like a little clip, keep the wiring out of the way. Well, the bolt broke off, so it's just a small, like 532 bolt. So I'm gonna just drill it out and put a new one in. All right. Okay. So I got these 3 bolts in with lock washers underneath the heads. Those were the original stainless, and all the threads on this side were, the bottom was still good, and the upper 2 didn't have threads. They were all through into nuts on the other side here. So I just put all that back together. I put anti-seize on them, so that should be good. This other side over here, let me go around and show you. This other side over here, I went to Lowe's, but Lowe's didn't have stainless bolts. This side over here, I had to drill the threads and bolts out because the heads on all 3 of these busted off. because they were so corroded and seized up. There was nothing I could do. So I went ahead and just drilled them out, and so I could get the unit out to work on it. So now, since I drilled them out, the bottom one, I was lucky enough that because there's no access to put a nut on the other side, just like the other side, I still had enough thread in there. I was able to put the anti-seize on here and get it to catch the threads and lock in. So we're good on that one for now. And then these upper two, of course, drilling them through, I drilled them all the way through so I could put nuts on the other side. So that's what I did. I put lock washers under the heads here. These are all stainless that Home Depot had, which I was pretty pleased they have stainless bolts. And then on the other side here, you can see I was able to get the what do they call it, locking nuts. That's what the other side was originally, locking nuts on it. So I got locking nuts for this side too. They didn't have stainless locking nuts or lock bolts, lock washers, but I went and got zinc. Zinc is better than nothing, so I'll keep an eye on them, put anti-seize on them. I could, every season now, I'm going to take these one at a time out and coat them and just keep an eye on them. If they start rusting, then I'll, well, these stainless bolts won't, but the rest of it might. And then this side over here is all stainless, so I don't have to worry about those. These are stainless originally, all this original stuff was stainless. So, except for these are of course aluminum that are coated with marine paint on there. So next step I have here is going to be putting the pin back in. So I took my wire brush, got all the corrosion off. I put the marine lubricant on it to put in the hole here, but the problem is the piston is too high. So I'm going to hook up my battery with the jumper cables and get this down, and then lower the engine down enough without the support here, enough that I can get that pin through there. So I actually have a stand that I can put underneath it to kind of help me do that, but I think I can just do it by hand. At this point it's easy to lift it up and down. When it's all the way down, it's a little different story. Plus I have the piston to keep it from falling all the way down. Anyway, so if I lower this piston down and lower the engine down, I think I can get the two to line up and then get the pin in. All right. Okay. So I got a hammer, something to drive it with if I need it. Another thing is, when you put this in, there's a hole here, and that's where the pin goes. It goes up into it, and that locks this pin in so it doesn't slide back out, which I doubt it ever would, but it's a safety. So I put grease on the pin, grease on this one. It's ready to knock on through. So I have it here handy. I had to lower this down and lower the engine down until I got these holes to line up. And once I did, this pin, it's tapered on both ends. So if you get it close and take the hammer and hit it, it'll go through. And so I made sure that the alignment on the keeper hole in this is in the same line. It's just a matter of getting it this way or that way. And then also you have this here, so you can put a big screwdriver on, and you could turn it if you had to. And it does move fairly good, so I'm confident I can get that keeper pin in there. And once I do get them lined up, I'm gonna have to use a flashlight and a mirror because I can't really get my head in there to see where I'm at. So I'll do that and put the keeper pin in, and then we're ready to start hooking everything up. Okay, so I got the pin in. You can see it up here. Let me grab a flashlight here. See? So the pin's in. So yeah, mirror and a flashlight, and get this in so the hole's lined up, and then I used my big screwdriver to turn it and get it lined up. So that's all good. Okay, so I got everything back together. Got the battery hooked up. I got the wiring. I still have to drill this out and put a new bolt and little bracket or clamp right there to hold the wiring. I got this up, and I noticed that this is actually for when you're traveling. So if you have it up all the way, you can put this up there. So let me do that, and I can show you here. Just like that. It's up all the way. It's kind of nice. Mercury has that. So it doesn't put so much load on this, and the O-rings, yeah, I think it'll make the O-rings last a lot longer if you have something holding this up, not bouncing around when you're driving. I see some people use the brackets off their trailer to hold this up, and my trailer's, of course, too far forward, so, but this works, so that'll hold it up. So let me show you how the trim works now. And the wiring too is out of the way there, so I verified that yesterday. Yeah, it clears it. It goes actually underneath it. My battery needs to be cleaned up. Okay, back up. I've already cycled it a few times, and then I opened up the with it full all the way up. Opened up the filling cap there and added some more, but it didn't really take hardly anything. And there it is. And you know, it's not leaking anymore. Got a few drips coming down, but that's where I use the power trim fluid. Yeah, you take this this cap off here with a big screwdriver, with it all the way up, and then add to it. Put the cap back on, and you're good to go. So that's it. It works good. No more leaks, yay! So that was my winter project. I mean, it doesn't take that long, but I don't like being out here in the weather either, so it was nice to have the tilt trim unit in the garage where it was nice and warm, and work on it. And then waited till now where the sun is starting to heat things up around here, and took the cover off the boat and get it ready to go out to Lake Washington for a spin with it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Subscribe. Thanks.